Good morning, everybody. All right, I hope you can see and hear, and everyone as well. I'm in Derbyshire. It's a beautiful sunny day, and wherever you are, I hope you're enjoying similarly good weather. So here we are, 12 months into our lockdown. What lessons have we learned? And we're going to discuss today implementing a post-COVID customer experience strategy for the housing association sector. So good morning to you all. So the plan is that I'm going to kick things off, set the background, and then I'm going to hand you over to James Robinson, who's going to talk about some potential solutions. So without further ado, let's roll on. So the first question is a sort of status quo level of customer experience are you delivering? And this goes to the heart of your customer experience strategy. What kind of organization are you? What is your CX culture? I've just proposed three possible levels here. The first level is what I might call random experiences. The organization is really focused on process, task, not particularly customer focused, what we might call internally focused. And there's not much measurement of what's going on. Exceptions of the norm, and we find ourselves characterized by customer service or customer experience heroes who are constantly having to rescue situations by doing brilliant work. That may seem good to that particular customer, but the problem is how many customers don't get that act of rescue. So there's lots of unintended consequences. We're not in control, and staff are actually quite disengaged, finding it pretty tough. They're getting a lot of grief from customers. We then sort of move up the scale to intentional. We start to think much more customer. We do fix our problems, but we have a measurement program, and we're kind of looking at how customer experience works across silos. Now, I've said that's profitable, but in your sense, it's within budget. It's sustainable from a financial point of view, but it's okay. But to move to the top level, differentiated experiences where we are really easy to do business with. And this is a critical factor and becoming more so. We really are thinking and acting in customer first. We're solving the customer's mistakes. We're taking responsibility for the customers. Even if customers make mistakes, it may be their fault, but we believe it's our responsibility. We're delivering our vision, our promise, and the whole thing kind of runs itself. Measurement feeds into corrective action. So it's kind of a little bit where you start from helps you decide where you can go, because if you're at the random level, you've got a lot more work to do than if you're already at the orange level. So what is the lesson of COVID-19? So we could move on one. So a big message here is that COVID-19 is causing us slow service, is wearing a bit thin. And in fact, we know from research out there that those offering emergency repairs only are really causing a lot of frustration. I'm not sure that that is actually sustainable, and I think we can work safely and get more than emergency repairs done. So that's important. We do know that more people will continue to work from home. A lot of debate at the moment about is the office dead? No, the office isn't dead. People still need that human contact, they need the collaboration. But in fact, though, people do work from home a little bit more, which has implications for your estate, but also your systems and your team working, your collaboration. Contact centres will be required to prepare for volume changes, and automation can help reduce the friction as you can turn on and turn service off. But agents working from home is a key factor. Digital engagement is increasing in the sector. People are getting the hang of it, and this is a drive across the board. Just as COVID-19 has accelerated online shopping by probably 5 to 10 years, it's increasing engagement across the board, and our customers are becoming more digitally engaged, and they're expecting more from us digitally. Customer effort, as I mentioned earlier, is becoming really important, and a lot of research is now showing is the most important driver of customer satisfaction. This has been around for a while, but the idea is we don't need to blow our customers' socks off. This idea of customer delight is not so critical. It's actually just allowing our customers to get on with their everyday lives. without causing them hassle. So being easy to do business with is critical, and this is one of the benefits of automation. So our customers are becoming more digitally savvy, and automation is not optional. It's not a nice to have, it's a must have. If you don't have it, your business won't fall over, but you will find that you are more expensive an operation and your customers aren't as happy, which takes you to the heart of why you want to get into customer experience in the first place. And this will probably require most of your customer experience and your key customer processes to be re-engineered. So we've had a situation where things have been accelerated, and if we are going to re-engineer, simple message here, simple but not necessarily easy, we have to start with customer journeys. People like me bang this drum forever and a day. Start with customer journeys, then move on to business processes. So your business process is aligned with your customer journey, and then finally add on the layer of technology. It's pretty simple, but if you just go straight into technology on a poor process, you'll just annoy your customers more quickly. So it's really important that you get great user experience from starting with customer journeys. Now, a simple explanation of this is here. The customer will always do it their own way. So it's much better to design from the customer's point of view. Customers will find workarounds, and you must see a lot of workarounds in your business customers are smart, they get the workarounds. So design and user experience should be aligned. So benefits of automation, quite simply, right information, right place, right time for the benefit of the agent and the customer. We can be available 24/7, so the service is going on when we're asleep. And automation is increasingly able to automate more complex tasks, more intelligent tasks. It was for a while just about simple repetitive tasks, but we can now go off-piste through automation. Now, what this allows you to do is kind of the Pareto rule, 80-20 management. 80% of your cases can be managed possibly on an automated approach, leaving you more resources to move on to that 20% difficult case situation, because digitization isn't for everyone. You will have people who, for whatever reason, cannot work with you purely digitally. So the resources you can have to focus on there can increase. This leads to increased agent satisfaction, less frustration for them, and importantly, less customer dissatisfaction. So both colleagues and customers benefit from this approach. And actually, agent dissatisfaction is a little recognized consequence of customer dissatisfaction. And you get a vicious cycle here. So both need to be worked into the satisfaction game. And ultimately, the benefits, we get cost and time savings. So that's our situation. And I'll hand you over now to James to talk about how you achieve those benefits in practice. And he's going to cover a couple of cases. So over to you, James.
Thank you very much, Richard. Appreciate that. Yeah, hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us this morning. I'm James, and I lead Synthetics work with clients in the housing association sector. So you join us today at really quite a poignant point in time. I'm sure that you're all aware that a couple of days ago was the first anniversary of the first day of lockdown. And that was the first anniversary of quite a cataclysmic event, really, that completely changed the way that we work, the way that we interact with each other, and actually the very way that we live. So we're at this point now where we're finally, thankfully, starting to begin to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And therefore, we're at a perfect point in time to reflect on the past and plan for the future. So what we're going to cover in this part of the seminar, well, with both that reflection and foresight in mind of what's happened over the last year, today we're going to be covering three main aspects of this experience that we've all shared over the last 12 months. So firstly, we're going to be looking at the challenges that we've faced. Now, all of you would have faced specific individual challenges, but I'm going to focus on three commonly recognised challenges that we've all experienced in the sector. We're also going to look, as Richard mentioned, at some of the solutions that have been delivered. Now, again, I don't know how your specific organisations have dealt with these challenges. In fact, I'd really love to find out. So please feel free to contact me after the webinar and let me know how your organisation has dealt with these challenges. I'd really like to know that. But I do know specifically about 2 of your peers and how they address these issues. So we'll be looking into those. And finally, importantly, we'll be looking at what we've learnt from this experience, what we can draw from it, and how ultimately we can provide better customer experience as a result. So we're going to jump straight into those challenges. So from talking with our colleagues in the housing association sector, we've recognised 3 key issues, and I'm pretty sure that they're going to resonate with all of you guys. So the first one was that first thing that we all had to deal with, that big bombshell, everybody home, enterprises had to react really, really quickly to this mega shift in the norm of how we conduct our business. It was such a major change. How did you guys cope? What technologies were out there to help you cope? And what was already in your enterprise? What needed to be purchased and what needed to be upgraded? And how did you support your staff? Now, TalkDesk commissioned a report that surveyed 102 UK contact centre leaders at manager, department head and director level about their management of the crisis and their plans post-COVID. And the results are really quite interesting. I've picked out a few, just 3 here, just to highlight. 35% of the leaders, contact centre leaders, think that their contact centres will be mainly home working post-COVID. So over 1/3 of the directors and leaders in contact centres believe that this is going to be a continuation. 58% stated that they thought home working would be partly optional and partly compulsory. So you can see the vast majority of contact centre leaders believe that at least some of their staff will continue to work from home. And in fact, only 7% believe that they will return to a normal contact centre. So this tells us that this shift in the way that we've worked is going to continue. Now, the next one I think is going to be resonant with all of you. Is a real big point for the sector. Richard mentioned it a little earlier. And I'm sure if I could see your faces, I would see a common theme of recognition across all of them. And what it did is it really posed a huge question. And that's, how do we maintain our properties, not to mention your customers' homes, when we can't safely or legally send an operative out to carry out those repairs? How did you guys deal with that massive immediate problem that was dropped on your lap a year ago? Again, I'd be really interested to hear from you to find out exactly how you dealt with that. Now, the last one was this, and again, something Richard mentioned, and it's really key, and that's the further accelerated shift in your customer base to online interactions. Now, this rang true not just for housing associations, but across all sectors. And it was really nicely summed up by this quote. Now, I know it's very bad form to just read a quote on a slide when doing a webinar, but I just think this is so spot on, and it comes from such a credible source. I think it's worth highlighting. So Super AER, who's the CEO of Moxtra, and actually more importantly, more impressively, he was the co-founder of WebEx. He states that consumers' expectations have gone digital and there's no turning back. Regardless of a shift back towards pre-pandemic life, the convenience and flexibility of a digital customer experience is here to stay. Businesses need to adopt digital solutions to keep customers satisfied and continue growing their business. Now, this shift has been happening gradually for years. COVID has really been a catalyst for this change, but that acceleration will have caught some organisations out. How well prepared were you for this situation? Were you offering all of the communications channels that your customers were expecting? And were your customers informed of the changes to the delivery of your service? So, as I mentioned previously, we've been working with a couple of housing associations to solve some of those challenges highlighted in the first part of this webinar. So now I'm going to have a quick look at some of the solutions that we've been delivering. So the two organisations that we've been working with are Cartrefi Conwy. They're a small housing association based in Abergele in North Wales, and Futures Housing Group, who are based in Ripley in Derbyshire. They're slightly larger. So we're going to start with Cartrefi Conwy. So Cartrefi Conwy chose to focus on that challenge presented by that third point, the public shift to online interactions. And the way they did that was they implemented an AI-powered knowledge base that delivered a web self-service solution for both their English and Welsh-speaking customers. Now, the reasoning behind this decision was the acknowledged benefits of implementing a web self-service solution, and we'll go through these now. So the first key one was they were looking to reduce the number of inbound contacts coming into their contact center. So by enabling their customers and empowering them to serve themselves on their website and preventing that call coming into their contact center was a real primary driver for Cartrefi to get this solution in place and make sure that the number of queries that their now home-based staff have to deal with are as minimal as possible. The other key element was something that I mentioned earlier, was that second point, and that reduction of repair call-outs. Again, they felt by publishing very, very clear instructions on how to empower their customers to do their own repairs, and I think we all know the kind of things, those call-outs to show somebody where the fuse box is, the guy who doesn't know how to defrost his condensation pipe in the winter to get his heating working. Those kind of low-level repairs that we all know that our customers, if they were just had a little bit of information and knowledge at their fingertips, could actually deal with themselves. That's where Cartrefi felt that they would get a lot of value from delivering a web self-service solution. And actually, what that means, both of those are the ultimate goal. And again, it's something Richard alluded to, which is an improvement in those CX metrics, the NPS and CSAT scores that effectively make a difference to the bottom line. So on to the next example, which was Futures Housing Group. Now, Futures chose to focus on supporting their now home working employees, addressing that bombshell that we mentioned right at the start of this experience where everybody had to go home and work from home. So they also implemented an AI-powered knowledge base, but one that delivered internally facing knowledge support. And that was accessible to not just their customer service department, but also their collections and accounts departments. Now, the reasoning and where Futures thought that they would get this business benefit is really that reduction of lengthy escalation processes. So by empowering their members of staff with all the information that they have at their fingertips, they believe that that would reduce the amount of internal escalations and therefore get significant savings, time-based savings from that. They also implemented decision trees. These are very clever mechanisms that guide an agent step by step through numerous or potentially complex processes, reducing those both errors in those processes and the internal escalations. So both of these the implementation of both of these kind of elements basically mean a reduction of those average handling times, and that's really their key driver there. So before I move on to, there we go, there's that subsequently improved CX metrics, just the same as Cartrefi Conwy, that final benefit is always going to be the same, and that's generating efficiencies and improving experience for users, whether that be internally or externally. So before I move on, it's worth noting that both Cartrefi Conwy and Futures Housing Group, they both utilised an innate asset that lay dormant in both organisations, and that's their experience, their expertise and their knowledge. And that's where we're going to go on to here, something that's I would say is a best practice and a bit of advice for everybody on the webinar to consider. And that's that once you've got that asset, you can do some really clever things. And if you put it everywhere in your organisation, you will see some incredible efficiencies that are being driven across the whole enterprise. So I'll just draw your attention here to this little jigsaw kind of graphic here. Now, if you can imagine, that central circle is the knowledge base. So from that knowledge base, that's where you hold all of that key information that's going to help people. And then you can deliver it, as in Future Housing Group's case, internally. You can deliver it as a Cartrefi Conwy, as a web self-service tool. You can actually take that one step further and attach that to a chatbot, so you can actually start getting some information from your customers in that journey and start doing clever stuff with it. And you can also support your live chat agents with an integration specifically with that internal knowledge base to help them deliver first-class service on the live chat channel. Now, it's not just your customer service function that can benefit from this either. We've had instances through many different kind of parts of the enterprise where that delivery of relevant knowledge to the right person at the right time helps many different departments within an enterprise. So what does that mean for you? Well, the benefits to the enterprise are clear when you look at the start and end of these two journeys. So the first journey I'm just going to show you here is the effect of knowledge for employees. So with all the info at their fingertips, complex processes being simplified, your colleagues can do their jobs with less effort. And a reduction of effort, that basically means an improvement of your time-based metrics. So average handling time, first contact resolution, that kind of thing. The reduction of effort for your employees improves those metrics. And obviously, if you've got those improved metrics, that translates into an increased operational efficiency. And obviously, if you're running your operation in a more efficient way, that's going to increase the bottom line for the business. So that's from your employees when they get that benefit of knowledge being presented to them. What about for your customers? Well, again, for your customers, it's similarly with the support and help available to your customers, they can reach resolution of their queries whilst expending less effort. Now, there's a fantastic book, Richard mentioned this, the effort side of things, that has been ratified and studied in numerous ways, and there's a fantastic book out there called The Effortless Experience by Matthew Dixon. I really recommend you reading that. The theory behind that is, as Richard mentioned, people really just want to get their queries dealt with and get on with their day, and the way to deliver exceptional customer experience is to focus on reducing their effort. So with that in mind, given that as read, the reduction of effort there will improve customer experience. And obviously, an improved customer experience will be reported through NPS and CSAT scores, so you'd have an enhanced CX metrics. And just as the final benefit of the employees is exactly the same, all this is going to do is increase that bottom line for the business. So I've spoken about these solutions. I've showed you some of the problems. What do they look like? So I'm going to introduce you here to Symfinity Housing, where I'll show you a couple of customer journeys that are supported by Symfinity's hidden asset, their knowledge. So just bear with me, I'll just make sure I get this. So as you can see here, this is just our kind of what we've put together for to demonstrate some journeys for you within the solutions that we've put together for our clients. So we'll start off with Cotreffy Conwy. So they had that web self-service, and this is probably the easiest journey that we can demonstrate. You can see here that there's different access points to the help on the website, but we're just going to focus on this floating widget here. So that opens up different channels of support for your customers. So in this instance, we're just going to access the web self-service. So here, it's very simple. With most excellent kind of solutions, simplicity is key. So here we're going to ask a question, and this customer has a leaky tap that he thinks that he might want to book a repair to come out and fix. As you can see, the web self-service solution has found that. It's understood that with the artificial intelligence, that faulty and leaky are pretty much the same. And as you can see here, is a very clear video kind of tutorial on how to solve this problem themselves. This could well save a call out for your engineers. So you can see here there's actually a link within that article. So if they still need help after this, they can go and book a repair anyway. And you can get some good feedback here from the customer as to whether that's answered a question and saved a phone call. And in fact, in this particular instance, that saved that call out for your engineer. So a very clean, nice, simple way to avoid those kind of call outs. So that was the web self-service side of things. We'll look at the internal knowledge now as well. And I'm going to do this in a slightly different way. I'm going to do that via a live chat, just to kind of show you guys how a joined up approach with that management of knowledge is going to make a real difference when you use it all together. So this is the view of the customer. He's called Dave, and this is the view of the agent, and he's called James. That's me. So James has picked up this live chat. Just a quick message. So as we can see here, Dave's got the live chat going. So Dave's got some noisy neighbours. He's not very happy, and he wants to see what he can do about it. That's something I'm sure that all of you guys have come across on probably a relatively regular basis. Dave's going to type his complaint, very broad. I have noisy neighbours. So from James, the contact centre agent's point of view, you can see here that he's as Dave typed, in fact, his live chat, the solution has recognised that and actually dipped into the knowledge base and automatically, this is where the automation part of what Richard was talking about, automatically suggested a couple of articles, knowledge articles, to help James solve this query as efficiently as possible. So I can see here that I have noisy neighbours. You can see here that there's I wish to complain about antisocial behaviour. So this is the way it works with within Futures Housing Group. So you can see here that there's a very clear kind of conversational kind of answer to Dave's query. You can simply copy that into the chat and then send that over to Dave. So you can see now with that knowledge base, the average handling time is absolutely plummeting. You know, this would have to be typed out if there wasn't that kind of support. So you can see here that that's actually really good, and you can see here that that's all fine. So Dave has actually said, no, I'd like to make a complaint. You mentioned me, hopefully heard me mention earlier, decision trees. So the decision trees are going to be demonstrated here. So you can see that Dave's now having another live chat there. So we can then simply see, you can see here from that previous search that there was a kind of top level answer, but then actually if somebody wants to take that step a little further, then the agent can open up a decision tree. And this is where it guides the agent through. Now, this isn't going to be a particularly complex process. I'm sure you guys can think of much more complex processes that can be simplified in your mind's eye, but just for demonstration purposes here. So you can ask, so the agent can now start asking Dave these particular questions and getting the answers from Dave very, very quickly and easily. You can see how the journey works like this. So you can then drill down into more specific questions. So you can see as this goes through, you can start getting really kind of granular and getting lots and lots of detail from the customer in a really automated and very quick way, and actually that guides that agent through to the right conclusion, basically in the quickest, most efficient way possible. So yeah, I'm not going to dwell too much longer on this, but you can see here there's that final end point of that particular journey. Hopefully that wasn't too lengthy or dull for you, but you can see here how that integration of knowledge and chat and just having that knowledge available to the agent. And actually that does look something like this if you don't actually have that integration with live chat. You can see here there's a dashboard for use for those agents. So that's the conclusion of the demo. I'm going to try and get back to the main webinar now. Just bear with me. Okay, so we're on to the last part now, the lessons learned, and this is really the key part of this webinar. What can we take from this? It's really important. So we're going to start with three perspectives. So we're going to start with society, and actually when I mean society, I mean your customers. What have your customers learnt from this crazy last 12 months that we've all had to go through? Well, firstly, we've learnt that we can achieve what we need to do online. We don't have to wait in a call in a call centre. We don't have to go to an office or a bank or a shop. We can actually do everything that we need to do online. And actually, we'll have a poor view of organisations that don't provide this service, at least at some level. And it's important to keep in mind. And actually, what's going to happen is we're going to continue to look for online channels of support after the pandemic. We've learnt that these are beneficial things. That our time can be better spent other than being in a queue in a contact centre or a physical queue in a bank or whatever it is that you may need to achieve. It's much quicker and you have much more time to do the things that you really love doing if we carry on with this shift in the way that we deliver customer service. The second perspective is from the workforce. Now, the first thing that we've realised as a workforce that it is possible to deliver world-class customer experience outside of an office environment, and that's really key. And actually, we expect our employers to support this paradigm shift, specifically with support from technology. And actually, we know now that the technology to support this change exists and it's ready to be deployed. So whether that be cloud-based telephony, shared drives, or clever knowledge bases, it's there, it's ready to go, and we need to utilise that to enable this shift in the way that we work. So lastly, importantly, the enterprise, which is you guys. And I think the key lesson that's been learnt is here that more than ever, customers expect and will choose to serve themselves online. And whilst this societal shift has been really disruptive and really quite challenging, significant efficiencies have been generated as a result of this shift, and that we really need to embrace that and take that further. Now, before I go to the last lesson learnt, I want to ask a question. The question, why hasn't every housing association implemented these technologies already? I think we know the answer to that. There has been a high barrier to entry. So this tech has been available for years. Synthetics have been creating this and delivering this type of software for 20 years. If you look at the likes of Verint, SAP, Oracle right now, Klarna, Zendesk, these guys have been providing this technology for the last 10, 15 years or more. And what's more, the benefits from this technology has been recognised by both large and small organisations. However, software vendors, including Synthetics, have traditionally focused on that ROI generative solutions. So those solutions where it hits a huge volume of users in order to get that ROI back from the solution. However, the last lesson that I want you guys to learn from this webinar specifically is that this budgetary barrier is now no longer there for housing associations. And let me explain a little bit. So Synthetics have also learnt a few things from this situation. One of which is that an organisation shouldn't be precluded from the implementation of these technologies based on a small or finite customer base or a low level of use. So we too have changed an existing paradigm, and I welcome you guys a further conversation with you to explore further. Thank you very much. I think that's the end of the webinar.
Yeah, that's it, James. So thank you very much. So just to sort of jump back into our helicopter, I kind of set out the general principles of all this, why it's so important, and some principles of implementation. And then James has sort of got into more detail, got lower level about how it works, and 2 cases showing you really good practical demonstrations there, benefits to both the customer and your colleagues. So a few questions raised there, and I guess it depends where you are in the process, whether you're sort of already down the road and you're sort of checking out how you're doing, or it could be that you've not started the journey and you're thinking about it and looking at different solutions. Sometimes that kind of late to the market can have a real benefit. Can you leapfrog a couple of generations of technology? So depending on where you are, perhaps you've got some questions that we can answer. So Harry's our moderator, and he'll feed any questions through.
Okay, guys, just having a look through the Q&As that we've been receiving over the last half an hour or so. So the first question comes in. These are all anonymous, so I can't tell who.
That's fine.
So we're not on a first name basis, but the first question is, how easy is this technology to implement? Like, how easy is it to get into my company?
Well, I'm going to send that one straight over to you, James. How easy is it to make things easy for customers? So
yeah,
we spoke about making things easy for customers. How easy is it to get on board with these solutions?
Yeah, really good question. And actually, it's an interesting one because we've talked a couple of things about a couple of times about reducing effort. And actually, we kind of take that ethos into the way that we deliver these solutions as well. Now, I can't obviously, this is a broad webinar and there may be other solutions available, and I can only really talk about what I know, which is from the synthetics point of view. But we really have focused on making that as effortless and frictionless as possible. So yeah, from the birth of an idea to get the solution going to go live can be as little as 8 weeks. It's all designed very much to be as light a touch as possible for IT infrastructure. Synthetics does all of the work behind the scenes. So yeah, the answer to that is it's very easy, and that all starts with a follow-up conversation with me after this webinar.
But so Amy at Cartreffi, I know, was your routine.
Yeah.
From when, obviously, there's a discussion about whether you're the right solution, whether Cartreffi Conway want to go ahead with you. But from when they say yes, let's do this, to having a solution available to customers, you're saying eight weeks.
Yeah, and that can be even less than that sometimes, Richard. Obviously.
And how much work on their side as opposed to on your side of the fence?
Yeah, good question. So the key thing there is content. Whilst we can deliver the technology to deliver that content, the actual content itself obviously has to come from the experts, which are you guys, which are the housing associations. So very often there may be resources already existing within the organisation from which they can draw that content, but very often it's a case of generating that, which is very easy using what you see is what you get editors at the back end of our solution. Okay,
so I hope that's a decent answer to the question. I think it's a fair point that James has made. To get down to specifics, probably need to have a chat with him. He doesn't bite, so please feel free if you want a more specific chat with James on that one. So it's quite one way, this process at the moment. So I hope that that one way solution, without being able to have a sort of getting a nod and a wink from you, that's okay. So Harry?
Yeah, there's actually another one that's come through. It's actually a really good point. So the person said that the solutions that we've covered in the webinar have been reactive. So I guess the question back to you, James, would be, how do companies like Synthetics help their customers prepare for future lockdowns or catastrophes?
Yeah, another really great question. So the key there really is that that collating of knowledge. That's the key thing there. Is no matter what channel you deliver that knowledge into, whoever the audience may be in your enterprise, once you've got that repository of all of those processes that can be simplified, of all of that advice on how to deal with certain situations, whether that be for customers or internally for employees. Once you've got it in that central repository, it's there as an asset, ready and waiting to be utilised and to be reactive from future events. So yeah, thank you for the question, whoever it was that asked that. You're absolutely right. We had to react to this big, scary situation, and that's something that was forced upon us. Now, nobody's got crystal balls. We all know exactly, none of us know what's happening in the future. But if you've got that repository of help ready and waiting to go through agile APIs, not wanting to wish to get too technical, but you can certainly put that in any particular disparate piece of technology that you might need to utilize the delivery of that knowledge. I'm hoping that's not too many big, I hope that's quite clear to everybody. But that's basically the key thing there, is to have that ready to deliver whenever you need it. So get that knowledge in that repository first, and then you'll be ready for things to come.
So after implementation, how quickly were these efficiencies demonstrated within the housing associations?
Yeah, good question. So with both, you'll notice that in the slides that we went through, they were projected business benefits. So these are not ratified as yet because they're still quite new as solutions go. But actually, as from the minute you go live with a web self-service solution like that, it can actually instantly start generating efficiencies. Literally from the first time that somebody serves themselves, that is a recognised saving. So as far as collating a trends within the organisation and kind of looking at efficiencies that have been driven over a length of time, obviously it will take that length of time to understand, but the efficiencies start being generated from day one of go live.
Perfect. So that was all of the Q&As that.
Okay, just one thing I would add about this is you've got to remember that it's not only a technology project, it's a change project.
Absolutely.
So the benefits of implementation depend on the quality of your change management. So very broadly, we're looking at making sure that everyone involved understands why this is taking place. So cannot just have people turn up with a new dashboard or a new approach and giving them skills on it. You need to set in context of why, which could be a simplified version of the debate that we went through early on, but essentially people need to know why this change is happening. They need to know what it means to them, what's the impact on their job, their working life, etc. So don't just let them work out for themselves what this means. You need to have that as part of the education program.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then they need to know how it's all going to be implemented. So it's really important that you remember that these implementations rely on a very strong wraparound internal communications program as well. And then equally, once you educate your customers in it as well too. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely, Richard. It's that adoption aspect of this is really key, especially, for example, with Futures Housing Group, with that internally facing knowledge base. Not so much with customers, because customers are sitting there ready and waiting to use self-service tools. Absolutely, as we discussed earlier in the webinar. But yes, for internally facing things, it's absolutely crucial that adoption takes place and your change management guys have got that in mind, because it's all very well and good having a fantastic tool to use, but if nobody wants to use it, it's pointless having it.
Or feels afraid of using it,
exactly, yeah. It takes some change and a culture shift sometimes, but well worth that investment.
Okay then, folks. So, Harry, anything more to add?
They were all of our questions that we got, so thank you everyone for contributing to that. And so
we'll finish the session off there. I hope you found it benefit. Just take 50 minutes out of your busy schedules. It all adds to your education and your learning, regardless of whether you do take things up further. But if you want to know more, please contact James direct, or indeed contact me. I think you've got plenty of channels to pick up. It's still lovely and sunny in Derbyshire, and I hope that wherever you are, you enjoy the rest of your day bathed in sunshine too. So thanks very much from James and from me. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Thank you.